My husband looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I can't keep lying to myself anymore. Your sister is the woman I really want." For a few seconds, I genuinely thought I had misunderstood him. 7 years of marriage, years of sacrifices, endless support, and countless dreams we had built together suddenly felt meaningless. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at him, waiting for him to tell me it was some kind of joke. But he wasn't joking. His face remained serious as he explained that he and my younger sister Ashley had been talking for a while and that she was better suited for the future he wanted. Hearing those words felt like someone had ripped the ground out from beneath me. This was the same man I had supported financially while he struggled through school, the same man I stood beside through every difficult season of our marriage, the same man I had spent nearly 2 years trying to build a family with. What made the betrayal even worse was the timing. Just days earlier, I had discovered I was finally pregnant after 18 painful months of trying for a baby. I had already bought a small gift box and planned to surprise Joseph on his birthday. Inside that box was a positive pregnancy test and a tiny pair of baby socks. I had even started writing down baby names. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about our future. Yet while I was dreaming about becoming parents together, my husband was secretly falling for my own sister. Ashley had always been the favorite child in the family. She was beautiful, confident, and popular on social media because of her fitness content and glamorous lifestyle. My parents adored her. Family gatherings always revolved around her accomplishments, her appearance, and her future plans. Over the years, I noticed Joseph paid a little too much attention to her. He liked every photo she posted, praised her constantly, and always seemed excited whenever her name came up. Whenever I mentioned how uncomfortable it made me feel, he dismissed my concerns and told me I was imagining things. Looking back, the warning signs had been there all along. I simply didn't want to believe my husband was capable of betraying me with my own sister. As Joseph sat across from me explaining why Ashley was supposedly a better match for him, something inside me broke. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I realized the man sitting in front of me was no longer the person I thought I knew. The man I married would never have done this. The man I loved would never have looked at my sister while I was fighting through fertility treatments and decided she was the better option. Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to beg. I refused to compete with my own sister for the affection of a man who had already made his choice. After a long silence, I looked at him and quietly said, "Then go be with her." The response clearly shocked him. He seemed almost disappointed that I wasn't screaming or pleading for him to stay, but there was nothing left to fight for. He had already chosen someone else. The next morning, Joseph returned to collect the rest of his belongings. That was when any remaining doubt disappeared. Ashley's hair tie was wrapped around his wrist and there was still lipstick on his neck. They hadn't even bothered to hide it. Less than 24 hours after ending our marriage, they were already acting like a couple. As I watched them loading boxes into the car together, laughing and smiling as though they had won some kind of prize, I felt completely numb. 7 years of marriage had ended without a single ounce of guilt from either of them. When they finally drove away, I closed the front door, walked into my bedroom, opened my drawer, and stared at the positive pregnancy test I had been saving. Neither Joseph nor Ashley knew about the baby, and standing there alone, holding back tears, I realized they never would. The days that followed were some of the darkest of my life. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of the future I thought Joseph and I were going to have together. The baby names written in my notebook, the tiny gift box hidden in my closet, the dreams I had spent months building in my mind, all of it suddenly felt shattered. To make things worse, my family acted as if Ashley and Joseph had done nothing wrong. Less than 24 hours after my marriage ended, my mother called me sounding almost excited. She told me Joseph and Ashley were finally together and acted as though I should be happy for them. Listening to her praise their relationship while completely ignoring the pain they had caused me felt like another knife in my back. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just losing a husband. I was losing the family I thought cared about me. I wanted to tell everyone about the baby. Part of me hoped that if they knew I was pregnant, someone, anyone, would finally understand how deeply I had been hurt. But every time I picked up the phone, the words refused to come out. Instead, I focused on protecting my pregnancy and trying to survive one day at a time. Unfortunately, my body was carrying more stress than I realized. 3 weeks later, I suffered a miscarriage. Sitting in that doctor's office, hearing the news felt like losing the last piece of hope I had left. The doctor explained that extreme stress could have contributed to what happened, but his words barely registered. I drove home in complete silence, feeling emptier than I had ever felt in my entire life. For weeks, I existed without really living. I went to work, came home, and stared at the walls. I stopped answering calls. I stopped checking social media. I stopped caring about almost everything. Then one afternoon, while driving home, I passed a local gym and noticed a sign in the window that read, "Cleaning staff needed, no experience required." Normally, I would have driven straight past it, but something made me pull into the parking lot. Maybe I was tired of sitting alone with my thoughts. Maybe I simply needed a distraction. Whatever the reason, I walked inside and asked about the job. The owner was a retired female bodybuilder with a personality bigger than the entire building. The moment she looked at me, she smiled and said, "You look like someone who could use a good workout and a fresh start." It was the first thing anyone had said to me in months that made me laugh. I got hired that same day. My job was simple: clean equipment, organize weights, and help keep the gym running smoothly. It wasn't glamorous, but for the first time since my marriage ended, I had something that pulled my attention away from the pain. As the weeks passed, I found myself spending more and more time around the gym. At first, I only worked there. Then I started exercising after my shifts. Every workout became an escape from reality. When I was lifting weights, I wasn't thinking about Joseph. I wasn't thinking about Ashley. I wasn't thinking about the baby I lost or the family that abandoned me. All I focused on was getting stronger one rep at a time. Slowly, the woman staring back at me in the mirror began to change. My confidence started returning. My energy improved. For the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was rebuilding myself. Meanwhile, Ashley and Joseph made no effort to hide their relationship. One afternoon, they came by my apartment to collect the last of Joseph's belongings. I had just returned from the gym and was covered in sweat from training. Ashley looked me up and down with a smug smile and joked that stairs must be difficult for certain people. Joseph laughed right along with her. A year earlier, their words would have destroyed me. That day, I simply walked past them without saying a single word. Something had changed inside me. I was beginning to understand that their opinions no longer mattered. The gym owner noticed my dedication and work ethic. She saw how much progress I had made and eventually approached me with an opportunity that would completely change my future. One evening, after watching me help several members with their workouts, she told me I had a natural talent for coaching people. Then she offered to pay for my certification so I could become a personal trainer. I was stunned. No one had believed in me like that for years. I accepted immediately and threw myself into studying. Every spare hour went toward learning fitness, nutrition, and training techniques. 8 months later, I earned my certification and officially became a personal trainer. My client list grew faster than I ever imagined. Women who heard my story were inspired by my transformation and wanted my help reaching their own goals. Before long, I was earning more money than I ever had before. For the first time since my divorce, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was actually building something. I didn't know it yet, but the gym that had helped save my life was about to open a door that would lead to something even bigger than I ever dreamed possible. Becoming a personal trainer changed everything. For the first time in years, I felt like I was building a future that belonged entirely to me. Every client I helped regain confidence reminded me of how far I had come myself. Women who walked into the gym feeling broken, insecure, or defeated often left smiling after a few months of training. Watching their transformations became just as rewarding as my own. My reputation spread quickly, and before long I was fully booked. What started as a simple cleaning job had turned into a career I genuinely loved. One client in particular would end up changing my life forever. Her name was Marianne. She was the wife of a successful real estate investor and one of the most connected women in the city. Unlike many wealthy people, she treated everyone with kindness and respect. After training together for several months, we developed a friendship. One afternoon, while discussing business over coffee, she told me about an old commercial building on the edge of town. The property had been sitting empty for years, and the surrounding neighborhood had no fitness center nearby. Marianne believed it was the perfect location for a gym. At first, I laughed at the idea. Opening a gym sounded impossible. I had no investors, no wealthy family members willing to help, and no experience running a business. But Marianne refused to let me dismiss the opportunity. She introduced me to her husband, who agreed to give me an incredible deal on the property. Then she started introducing me to people in her professional network. To my surprise, several of them loved my story. They saw how hard I had worked to rebuild my life and believed in my vision. Slowly, people began offering investments and partnerships. I took every dollar I had saved and poured it into the project. For months, my life revolved around construction permits, equipment orders, business plans, and endless paperwork. There were nights when I slept on the unfinished gym floor because I couldn't afford to waste money on anything else. I ate cheap canned food, worked 18-hour days, and handled problems that seemed impossible to solve. But unlike my marriage, every sacrifice I made was finally benefiting me. Every difficult day brought me one step closer to something I owned. Around that time, Joseph suddenly reappeared. After months of silence, he sent me a message saying he had seen my fitness content online. Instead of congratulating me, he made a sarcastic comment about how trying to become like Ashley would never win him back. I stared at the message for a few seconds before laughing. The old version of me might have cried. The new version simply deleted it and went back to work. I was too busy meeting investors and planning a business launch to care what my ex-husband thought. The grand opening of my gym exceeded every expectation. Within weeks, memberships were pouring in faster than we could process them. People loved the atmosphere, the trainers, and the sense of community we created. 8 weeks after opening, we already had hundreds of members. 3 months later, the gym was generating profits I had never imagined possible. Every time I walked through the doors and saw the facility packed with people working toward their goals, I felt proud, not because of the money, but because I had built it myself. No husband, no family connections, no shortcuts, just determination and hard work. During this period, another unexpected blessing entered my life. Marianne introduced me to her nephew Dale. The first thing most people noticed about Dale was his size. He was a former Olympic weightlifter with broad shoulders and an impressive athletic background. But what stood out to me wasn't his appearance, it was his character. Unlike Joseph, Dale never tried to impress people with words. He listened more than he spoke, he respected boundaries, he treated everyone around him with kindness. Most importantly, he never made me feel like I had to compete for his attention. Our friendship developed naturally. He never pressured me into dating. He understood my history and gave me space to heal. Over time, that friendship became something deeper. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how different a healthy relationship felt. There were no games, no lies, and no manipulation. For the first time, I felt completely safe with someone. Eventually, we started dating, and the relationship grew stronger with every passing month. About a year after Joseph left me for Ashley, my parents called and begged me to attend Ashley and Joseph's first wedding anniversary celebration. I had no interest in seeing either of them, but they insisted Joseph wanted to say something important. After several days of pressure, I finally agreed. However, I wasn't going alone. Dale would be coming with me. By then, another miracle had happened. I was pregnant again. This time, everything felt different. My business was thriving. I was surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. I was engaged to a man who treated me with respect. Most importantly, I was finally happy. The woman who walked into that anniversary party was nothing like the broken woman Joseph had abandoned a year earlier, and when Joseph saw me that night, standing beside Dale with a visible baby bump and a successful future ahead of me, the expression on his face was absolutely priceless. What happened next would become the most satisfying moment of my entire life. The moment Dale and I walked into the anniversary party, the entire room seemed to go quiet. I could practically feel people staring. Some recognized me as the woman Joseph had left behind. Others recognized me as the owner of the city's fastest-growing gym. Either way, everyone was watching. Dale stayed beside me with the calm confidence that always made me feel safe, while I smiled politely and ignored the whispers. Then I saw Joseph. The second his eyes landed on me, his expression completely changed. He looked stunned. His gaze moved from my face to my baby bump and then to Dale standing beside me. It was as if reality had suddenly slapped him across the face. A year earlier, he had walked away believing he was trading up. Now he was looking at the life he had thrown away. Ashley wasn't looking much better. She was pregnant too, but unlike me, she seemed exhausted and unhappy. The confident woman who had proudly taken my husband now looked stressed and overwhelmed. Before I could even process the situation, she hurried over and quietly pulled me aside. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered that she needed my help. Before she could explain further, a glass clinked loudly from across the room. Everyone turned toward Joseph, holding a drink in one hand. Joseph stood in the center of the room and cleared his throat. What happened next shocked everyone present. He announced that Ashley's baby wasn't his. The room instantly erupted into gasps and whispers. Ashley looked like she was about to collapse. Joseph explained that he had recently learned he was infertile, meaning there was no possible way he could be the father. The celebration transformed into complete chaos within seconds. Guests stared at Ashley in disbelief while others pulled out their phones to record the unfolding disaster. Then, as if humiliating his wife publicly wasn't enough, Joseph turned toward me. With dozens of people watching, he confessed that leaving me had been the biggest mistake of his life. He claimed he still loved me. He said he wanted another chance. He even started walking toward me as if we were somehow going to restart the relationship he had destroyed. For a brief moment, the entire room held its breath waiting for my response. But I wasn't the same woman he abandoned a year ago. I instinctively placed my hand over my stomach, protecting my unborn child while Dale calmly stepped forward beside me. He wasn't aggressive, he didn't need to be. His presence alone made it clear where I belonged. I looked Joseph directly in the eyes and calmly told him there would never be another chance. The marriage he threw away was gone forever. The trust he destroyed could never be rebuilt. Whatever feelings I once had for him died the moment he chose my sister over me. His face crumpled as the reality finally sank in. For the first time since I had known him, he truly looked defeated. Without another word, Dale and I turned around and walked out together, leaving Joseph standing alone in the middle of the mess he created. Over the following weeks, the fallout continued. Ashley eventually admitted that the father of her baby was a photographer she had worked with for months. Mediation sessions were arranged to handle the situation, and paternity testing confirmed the truth. Meanwhile, Joseph desperately tried to reconnect with me through messages, emails, and even legal tactics. At one point, his lawyer attempted to claim that he deserved part of my gym because I had started my fitness journey while we were still technically married. Fortunately, every dollar invested in my business came from my own savings, inheritance money, and income earned after our separation. Financial experts reviewed everything and completely destroyed his claim. Eventually, Joseph realized he had no case and agreed to sign away any rights to my business forever. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. The divorce was finalized. The legal battles ended. The family drama slowly faded into the background. Instead of focusing on the past, I focused on the future. My gym continued growing, my team became stronger, and my pregnancy progressed smoothly. Most importantly, I had Dale beside me every step of the way. He attended doctor's appointments, helped me prepare for the baby, and supported me without ever asking for anything in return. Every day, he showed me what a real partner looked like. 5 weeks before my due date, I was teaching a morning class at the gym when contractions suddenly started. Within hours, Dale was driving me to the hospital while staying remarkably calm. After a long and exhausting labor, our daughter finally arrived in the early hours of the morning. The second the nurses placed her on my chest, every painful moment from the previous years suddenly felt worth surviving. She was healthy, beautiful, and perfect. Looking down at her tiny face, I realized I had finally received everything I once dreamed about. Just not with the person I originally expected. A few months later, Ashley gave birth to her son. Surprisingly, she sent me a short message thanking me for encouraging mediation instead of turning everything into a public court battle. We would never be close sisters again, but at least the endless hostility had finally ended. Even my parents eventually began respecting the boundaries I had created. For the first time in my life, I stopped allowing other people to decide my worth. Today, my gym remains one of the most successful fitness businesses in the city. My daughter is healthy and growing fast. Dale and I continue building a life based on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. And whenever I think back to the day Joseph looked me in the eyes and chose my sister over me, I can't help but laugh. He thought he was taking everything from me. In reality, he was removing the people who were holding me back. Losing my marriage felt like the end of my story at the time. Looking back now, it was actually the beginning of the best chapter of my life. Thank you so much for watching today's story. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Your support means a lot and helps the channel grow. I appreciate every single one of you for spending your time here with me today. Take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll definitely join me for the next story. See you in the next video.